Nintendo's Creators Program has finally been rolled out, but the numbers just don't make sense. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but first, my opinion. I'm Tarmack, and this is Feature Creep. Back in 2013, Nintendo began claiming YouTube videos en masse via the ContentID system. Fast forward to January 2015, and their discussed revenue share model has finally arrived. Here's how it works. A YouTube channel can register individual videos with Nintendo in exchange for a 60% revenue share, or they can register their entire channel for a 70% revenue share. Of course, they can't have any non-Nintendo games on their channel if they choose to register the entire thing, because it would cause an interesting copyright issue for Nintendo to be making ad revenue from competitor video games. There have been some issues with registration times taking quite a while, which I suppose is unfortunate for the channels getting involved in the system. I have significant issues with the whole thing, as it sets a troubling precedent of video game companies monetizing things that I don't feel they have the right to take revenue from in the first place, but that's not the purpose of this video. I decided to crunch some numbers to see just how this system has the potential to affect Nintendo. There are a couple of assumptions that I make here, but to add some credibility to my argument, I run a subnetwork on YouTube which can partner channels, so all of this comes from some degree of experience. Let's get right into it. We'll assume first that Nintendo-related content receives 1 billion views every month. You'll see in a bit that the value of this number doesn't really matter, as it's all proportional. The average CPM on YouTube is in and around the $8 mark. This means that it costs $8 for 1,000 monetized views, and YouTube takes 45% of that $8 before anyone else gets paid, so that the service itself can make some money. With 1 billion views and an $8 CPM, we have an overall cost of $8 million in order to generate that kind of exposure. I'm leaving out the idea of organic views from fans versus advertisement views, though I think that it's safe to say that consumers are more apt to believe the opinion of a channel that they like than an advertisement they've been shown. Now, not every view on YouTube is monetized, only about half of them are, so those 1 billion views are likely worth closer to $4 million in overall revenue. YouTube's going to take 45%, which leaves $2.2 million in revenue to be split among the channels generating the views under normal circumstances. With the Creators Program revenue split, Nintendo is going to take 30 to 40%, which means that they'll earn $660,000 to $880,000 from those views. And this is where things start to get a little bit weird. Obviously, by implementing a forced system like this, Nintendo content creation is already and will continue to see lower numbers than it would have otherwise. I'm going to pick a number out of thin air that I totally haven't calculated in advance. Let's say that their viewership due to lack of new videos drops overall by 9%, and recheck our numbers. That 1 billion views is now 910 million, the 660,000 to 880,000 ad revenue is now just 600,000 to 800,000. This still sounds like a lot of money to get every month, right? Well, compared against Nintendo's $254 million profit target for March 2015, that's about a 3 to 4% increase annually. It's not negligible, but what about the loss in exposure? Surely Nintendo doesn't want to have fewer views. They can't be unaware of the fact that a significant drop in viewership would have an impact on sales, so let's crunch those viewership numbers too. In order for Nintendo to make up for that 9% loss in viewership, they would need to buy 90 million ad views on YouTube. Those 90 million ad views, assuming the same $8 CPM, will cost $720,000. We don't discount this one by 45% for YouTube and 50% monetized view percentage, because now Nintendo is on the buying end of ads, not the receiving end of unmonetized views. In order to keep the Nintendo Creators Program active but not lower their rough view exposure numbers, Nintendo has to spend $720,000 a month in marketing costs in order to make $600,000 to $800,000 in ad revenue, and that's with only a drop of 9% in total available views. This is the point at which the program breaks even, its equilibrium if you will, the point at which Nintendo has neither gained nor lost exposure or money. Call it how you will, but from the amount of bad press that's been going on, sizable YouTube channels avoiding Nintendo content, and smaller channels having been burned by the mass claim issue in the past, it seems to me that only having a 9% drop in overall viewership across all of YouTube is probably an overly optimistic number to pick. The beauty of this kind of calculation is that since we're using static percentages, it doesn't matter how many views Big N's products actually get. You can run the numbers at 1 million views a month or 1 trillion views a month. In each case, you'll get the same 9% viewership drop equilibrium point. This whole video is just what it would take for Nintendo to keep the status quo for view exposure on their products. Now, I suppose that if they could be sure that a 9% or less drop in viewership would happen, then they could be using those ad dollars to focus eyes on certain products at certain times, which is a fair point. But with the Wii U essentially still being a colossal albatross around the neck of Nintendo right now, one has to wonder why this was the route that they chose to go. If they're fine with exposure dropping in exchange for some cash, then I don't really know what to say. It's short-sighted at best, damaging at worst. Anyone who thinks that a significant drop in exposure on YouTube doesn't affect sales in a major way at this point is utterly delusional. What do you think about the new Nintendo Creators Program? Do you buy games based on what YouTubers suggest or play? Drop me a line down below. Personally, with the recent closures and downsizing in traditional games media, I think that they're completely undervaluing how much influence the YouTube gaming community has. If you enjoy Feature Creep, I'd be very grateful if you would hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. That's all I have to say. Tarmack out.